Pomej. The Missing President's Daughter. Sherlock Holmes, The Galactic Cases. Episode 9. Based on the characters created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. A Go Audio production. If there's one thing I hate, it's having to play a part in an unfolding family tragedy, Captain Decker grumbled, for the assignment he had received was quite unusual for the Galactic Union. The First Officer Tornot made sure he had understood correctly. So, sir, we were chosen to interfere in a family matter which, in your opinion, is none of our business. Well, I suppose it does concern us somewhat, grumbled Decker, especially since the President of Gliese 229 AB is threatening to simply obliterate our station there unless we resolve this matter promptly. Clear up, Tornot repeated with relief. Then we should promptly consult our good old Sherlock Holmes. Thoughtfully, Decker rocked his head and drummed the fingers of his right hand on the wide armrest of his command chair. I doubt whether he's the right one for this. After all, it hasn't even been established if the President's daughter is dead. At that moment, the capable robot Elmer came onto the bridge to make an announcement. Sir, our Sherlock Holmes has succeeded in making an invention that he wishes to patent. Oh, fantastic, Decker exclaimed, rolling his eyes. I do hope it's a search engine for missing presidents' daughters. I'm afraid not, sir, Elmer denied. It's something rather more mundane, but he's very proud of it. So if I may offer some unsolicited advice, sir, at least pretend to admire him for it. Exhaling, Decker forced air through his clenched teeth. Fine, then. Did you know, sir, that I once invented something too? A Swiss Army knife with a built-in car jack, but unfortunately it was too heavy for the trouser pocket. Hehehe. The lift door opened, and Holmes stepped onto the bridge together with Dr. Watson. His face reflected pride, mixed with a hint of arrogance. Have you already heard the joyous tidings of my invention? He asked immediately. Dr. Watson also seemed delighted about his friend's success and remarked, Soon the entire universe will know what a genius you have retrieved from the past, Mr. Decker. Don't keep us in suspense any longer, just tell us what this stroke of genius is, Tornot demanded impatiently. Ahem! Holmes cleared his throat, unbuttoned his suit jacket and pointed to his belt, where a small silver box was attached to the front, which could have been mistaken for a large belt buckle. Here you see the first stink weapon ever invented by a detective. Simply press the little button on the front, and it releases a small dose of unpleasant odour, or should I say stench, which will drive away even the most persistent enemy. Oh, brilliant, Decker applauded. That's an invention the whole world has been waiting for. Do I detect a hint of irony there? Holmes inquired. You don't seem to believe me. Would you insist on a demonstration? No, Tornot protested. Anything but that. We don't want to be stunk out, especially since we have quite different, far more important problems. To be precise, just one problem, Decker clarified, and it's a serious one. Indeed, Tornot nodded. Otherwise we'd be bored out of our minds. And what's this all about? Inquired Holmes, seized by curiosity and a drive for action. Must be murder, hoped Dr. Watson, who knew his friend was already yearning for the mental challenge of hunting down a killer. We're supposed to track down a president's daughter who suddenly disappeared. Decker revealed the delicate assignment. Specifically on Gliese 229 AB, where we operate an outpost at the North Pole. And Tornot added, which will unfortunately be destroyed if we fail in our mission, along with all the civilian staff and their families stationed there. That sounds more like a potentate than a president, Dr. Watson wondered, or like Genghis Khan. At any rate, a powerful authority, Holmes surmised as he buttoned up his suit jacket, concealing his invention behind it. And one mustn't trifle with such people, especially when it concerns their offspring, whom they regard as their property. Tornot shrugged his shoulders. Who knows? Perhaps the little one has secretly slipped away precisely because she finally wants to escape from the old man. Tornot, no, Decker warned him. We mustn't entertain such thoughts, not even remotely. The President has always presented himself as a loving, concerned father, as far as one can say that about the humanoids there, and therefore we shall assume that his daughter was lost to him against her will. How old is the poor girl? Sherlock Holmes ventured to ask, despite his usual courtesy. 86, Decker replied. Ah, so we're dealing with an elderly lady, Dr. Watson expressed mild disappointment. Perhaps in a bout of dementia, she's no longer able to find her way home. No, because on Gliese 229 AB, the humanoids, who look almost exactly like us humans, live to be over 600 Earth years old. This means the woman is still in her rebellious youth phase, Decker explained with an affected gesture. So there could indeed be a first love involved after all, suggesting she voluntarily chose to run off with a young, or perhaps not so young, man, Holmes deduced. That's exactly what this President Nebogil Kadmeshnezar doesn't believe, as he raised his daughter Nebulia in a strictly rational manner. Indeed, rumour has it that the indigenous people of Gliese 229 AB even use medication for this purpose. Tornot revealed his knowledge about the alien customs prevalent there. In any case, our people at the outpost are in constant danger. However, I cannot understand why this outpost was established on a planet with such an easily agitated president. Holmes shook his head indignantly. There are countless Earth-like planets that are possibly still completely uninhabited. Said Decker. That's how an ordinary citizen thinks. Unfortunately, we're governed by politicians who have divided up the universe amongst themselves rather like a chessboard. It's advantageous to have a piece standing on as many squares as possible. Or several at once, Tornot added again. But the game of chess can turn into deadly earnest, the detective realised. Decker nodded thoughtfully. That's right, Mr. Holmes. Therefore, I believe it would be wrong to send you with the task of solving this case. However, as an apolitical and impartial envoy, who will do his utmost to return the missing person to her father, you seem to be the most suitable among us all, and your friend can provide medical assistance if necessary. But what shall we do if she doesn't want that at all? Dr. Watson ventured to object. Then appeal to her reason, Tornot advised him. Oh dear, escaped the doctor. Reason during the storm and stress phase is as rare as sunshine on a rainy day. Decker rose from his command chair and put his hands on his hips. In all fairness, I must warn you that dealing with these non-human natives is at your own risk. Space Fleet Command advised me to withdraw in case of any hostile reaction, as Kadmeshnezar's destroyer fleet remains undefeated, and with just one spacecraft, we wouldn't stand a chance against them. Even the name sounds rather martial, Holmes noted. I assume if we don't find his daughter alive, he'll likely take out his rage on the humans on his planet. That's very likely, Tornot nodded. After all, he and his subjects, who are all very clever and could easily manage without him, have learned English. But not the refined English way, Decker completed. We'll drop you both off in our landing spider, which isn't equipped with weapons but is highly capable off-road. You can control it with simple voice commands. The President lives in the Mountain of Wisdom, which is always orbited by at least 3 destroyers. I see, so the mountain would be impregnable in case of war, Dr. Watson observed, drawing on his experience as an army doctor. Nevertheless, I shall rise to this challenge, Holmes boasted with his head held high. Secretly, he was pleased about this difficult assignment, for without intricate situations to deal with, he would quickly become bored. I assume I must remove my weapons belt? No, Decker wearily waved off. I hardly think your peculiar stink belt will be registered as a weapon by Kadmeshnezar's troops. Now that all the important matters have been settled, Tornot said cheerfully whilst rubbing his hands together, we wish you the best of luck, gentlemen. Thank you, Holmes said curtly to him, and then turned to Dr. Watson. Come along, my friend. We shall do our utmost to conjure the President's daughter out of the top hat. While the two friends were on their way to the cargo room in the lift, they approached Gliese 229 AB, whilst continuously broadcasting the peace melody in waltz time. We come in peace, in peace, in peace. Sounds incredible that these humanoids are into such ancient music, Tornot scoffed. After they had released Holmes and the Doctor in the landing spider into the planet's atmosphere, Decker doubted their success. This time, we've asked too much of our two Englishmen from the past. They won't be able to handle the rebellious president. Tornot reassured him. This Holmes is capable of rising to his peak form under pressure. Better he takes the risk of falling into the madman's hands than one of us. But I shall miss his occasionally humorous way of reminding us that he actually belongs to our ancient ancestors. Decker lamented somewhat sadly. The steel spider descended slowly to the ground beneath a parachute and landed on its 8 legs, whereupon a whirring sound announced the retraction of the chute. Mountain peaks were barely visible on the horizon beneath a green sky. It would have been more advantageous to drop us directly at the Mountain of Wisdom, Dr. Watson criticised. A tinny voice sounded. There is a strict no-fly zone over the President's Mountain and its immediate surroundings. Aha! Holmes exclaimed with delight. Our vessel can even speak. Well then, kindly take us closer to our destination, Spider. At once, the steel creature began scuttling towards the mountains at an astonishing pace. The round body created a swaying motion, similar to a ship in gentle seas. Through small portholes, one could observe the landscape, which was also green. There were neither roads, nor trees, nor houses, nor any other familiar features of an inhabited planet. Only rocky terrain, partly covered with moss and lichen. To the side of the mountains, the moon of Gliese, 29 AB, appeared quite large, reflecting white light from the central star. After just an hour, the mountains, previously visible only as peaks, had grown to their full size, and the highest among them was being circled by 3 imposing spaceships. I feel a profound sense of unease, announced Dr. Watson at the sight. Those must be the destroyers. Since we have no weapons, we need not expect any attack, Holmes reassured him, showing not the slightest hint of emotion. To the right of the mountain range stretched a large lake, its calm surface reflecting the mountains. It might have been almost romantic had it not been for the 3 steel behemoths hovering above them like a 3-bladed sword of Damocles. The Mountain of Wisdom was the only one in the small mountain range that had a brightly lit entrance, leading into a tall tunnel adorned by 2 long stalactites, from which polished diamonds slowly dripped to the ground. Upon entering, Holmes and Dr. Watson heard fanfare-like music, which immediately stopped when a tall man stepped from the background into the light. He almost appeared like a stage star about to perform an aria. Good day, President Cadmus Cesar, Holmes bowed. Dr. Watson did the same beside him. The President, bald and wrapped in a gold and black robe, actually looked quite human, if one disregarded the 3rd eye in the middle of his forehead. And the fact that his facial expression changed every 10 seconds, from mocking to threatening to disgusted to bored, with the latter expression seeming the most pleasant of all. Sherlock Holmes introduced himself along with his faithful companion, and further assured, We bring warm greetings from Captain Decker, and have been tasked with finding your esteemed daughter, most honourable President, after the station search party proved unsuccessful. There was no search party, as I do not communicate with the settlers, especially not since some years ago when several of them came to me thinking I was an oracle who could foretell their fate. Cadmus-Nezar's expression darkened. How terribly rude of them, remarked the doctor. What sort of peculiar growth of hair are you wearing on your face? The President wanted to know from Dr. Watson, whilst pointing at him with an outstretched arm. My moustache hairs are radar antennae that help me receive everything that goes on in the world around me during the day. He improvised an original answer and promised, We shall do everything to find your daughter. Do you have any other children, dear President? Inquired Holmes. We only have offspring once every 700 years, the President revealed, and pointed to the rock face beside him, where an image appeared showing a young woman with short, light brown hair. Nebulia is my only one so far. I beg your pardon, but that cannot be quite right, remarked Dr. Watson. After all, You only live to be 600 years old." 6,000! bellowed the President angrily, while sparks seemed to spray from his third eye. "I beg your pardon. It seems we were misinformed," the doctor apologized meekly. Then Holmes spoke again. "So you fear that your charming daughter might be—" "I fear absolutely nothing," interrupted the President, his powerful voice echoing off the high walls. Holmes continued as calmly as possible. "Forgive my poor choice of words. I merely meant to express that you disapprove of the circumstance that your daughter might have withdrawn from paternal care." "Yes," he admitted, now somewhat calmer. "She wanted to get to know people, against my wise counsel." "But what do you have against us humans?" Dr. Watson wanted to know, pointing to his chest. "Quite a few things," he began to list with a disgusted expression. "They are weak, unreliable, greedy, irrational. Your daughter is still very young, President Cadmus-Chesa. At that age, everything that seems irrational appears quite attractive," Holmes interrupted. "But where exactly are your people, President Cadmus-Chesa?" "We all live underground, which might be a reason for my daughter's disappearance," he pondered, "as she wants to enjoy life on the surface." "And your Afra feel uncomfortable with the thought that your child might go off the rails?" Dr. Watson ventured to guess. "I sense that she is in bad company, and I'm giving you 2 days to bring her back to me, or else I shall begin the destruction." Without waiting for an answer, he withdrew. The image of Nebulia faded, and the light dimmed slightly. "Quickly, Holmes," urged Dr. Watson. "Let's get outside before it becomes completely dark. Long name, short patience span. 2 days is cutting it too fine." With his distinguished manner, the master detective condescended to only a brief statement. "It all depends on making the most of every moment." Beyond the mountains to the north, the landscape changed dramatically from its previously peaceful green appearance before the visitors. In reddish light lay a barren plain, where only thistle-like plants grew sporadically from the ground. A levelled path widened into a wasteland that seemed to lead nowhere. Directly in front of them lay something in the way, similar to a burnt vehicle. The steel spider climbed effortlessly over the wreckage, which looked like a shot-down flying saucer. "Looks like someone got hit," Holmes pointed at it through one of the portholes. "And up ahead, it seems the pilot's making a run for it. Spider, stop beside him. We want to have a word." "Speaking of which," Dr. Watson interjected, "how could you remain so calm while speaking to that stern despot?" "I kept focusing on the spot between his 3 eyes, right at the bridge of his nose." Holmes revealed his trick to him. "For a detective, it's absolutely essential not to let oneself get nervous, especially not by dubious usurpers." The spider obediently stopped next to the pilot, who was wearing a red cap and blue overalls, as he carefully crouched down, almost as if he intended to make a diving leap. Sherlock Holmes opened the hatch and waved amiably. "Can we be of assistance? What seems to be the matter?" "What happened?" repeated the man, still visibly annoyed. "I can't imagine a more ridiculous question. I was shot down by those flying heaps of junk without any warning, and I was only out for a short flight. Who are you lot of jokers supposed to be?" Despite the stranger's somewhat rough manner of speaking, Holmes willingly revealed their names and asked for his in return. "My fine name is Bloodsweat," he introduced himself, and climbed straight into the spider's belly to take a seat next to the 2 gentlemen. "What brings you so bloody close to the dangerous mountains where the old 3-eyed chief dwells?" "Well, I see no reason for secrecy," stated Holmes as the spider continued on its way. "Therefore, I shall speak openly. We are searching for the President's missing daughter, who set off for the station at the North Pole, where we should easily find her among the few people there. I just hope we aren't too lightly dressed for this expedition." "Who told you that nonsense?" Bloodsweat grinned with amusement. "Well, it's lucky you met me. There's no question of a station anymore, as it has grown into a city of 1 million inhabitants over the last 100 years. And the temperatures at the North Pole are quite pleasant, as it's heated by the neighbouring brown dwarf Gliese 229b. "I must say, I'm rather concerned," Dr. Watson remarked. I wonder why we were given so much false information. Bloodsweat made a dismissive gesture. These three-eyed beings are revolting yet clever creatures. They're supposedly immortal, and have recently been quietly mingling amongst us without so much as asking permission. But my dear Mr. Bloodsweat, someone with 3 eyes would find it rather difficult to blend in imperceptibly amongst humanity. Dr. Watson contradicted him. These invaders made sure that headbands came into fashion. Yeah, that's how cunning they are. Every other bloody person wears them in all colours because these nutters don't understand what they're actually meant to do. Bloodsweat worked himself up, visibly agitated, and pulled his cap lower over his forehead. Namely, that they are meant to conceal whether a third eye lurks beneath them, deduced Holmes, razor sharp as ever. Quite right, Bloodsweat agreed with him delightedly. But the 3-eyed ones certainly won't fool me, as I simply refuse to speak to anyone wearing such a headband. Ha! Very clever indeed, praised Dr. Watson while rolling his 2 eyes. And I suppose you won't speak to a female headband wearer either. Well, it depends on what she looks like. Heh heh. He grinned sleazily, pushing his cap back from his forehead. There are some pretty birds even I can't resist. Still, I'm always on my guard. Did you have a particular reason for your harmless flight? Holmes inquired. No, just felt like escaping the bloody commotion in the city. Wanted to take a look at myself from the inside. And now I've got to explain to my boss what's happened to the damned flying disc. He rattled off his frustration. Why don't you simply tell the truth? Suggested Dr. Watson. For that, he received a critical sideways glance from Bloodsweat. I say, mate, where did they let you out from? The secure ward of the loony bin, or what? If I admit to taking a quick spin in the company flyer, I'll lose my bloody job. And what do you do for a living, if I may ask? Holmes wanted to know. I'm a debt collector, someone who collects overdue bills from people with poor payment habits, Bloodsweat admitted. Ah, now I know what I'll tell that crooked miser. Someone simply nicked the company aircraft from right under my nose. Good one, eh? You smell of alcohol, my friend, Dr. Watson pointed out, noting his bad breath. That's right, but I'm not your friend. Let's be clear about that. Bloodsweat fended off with an additional gesture. I'll serve up a believable story to that greedy blighter. I was ambushed, then got me drunk to nick the aircraft from me. How does that sound? Unconvincing, replied Holmes. To appear credible, you'll need to come up with something better than that. Or you could change jobs, Dr. Watson suggested. Hey, I'm not one of those lowlifes who changes jobs as often as their underwear, Bloodsweat declared. Ah, the suburbs start up ahead. I've got relatives there who can help me figure out what sort of excuse I can use. Let me out. Stop, Spider, commanded Holmes, whereupon the 8 legs beneath him immediately stood still. Farewell, Mr. Bloodsweat. Same to you, he replied while getting off. If I may give you some advice, I'd recommend getting out of here quickly. This city is a dangerous place, and no less risky than that cursed ghost mountain with its 3-eyed, spooky figures. Rather perplexed, they watched him leave before Holmes gave the order to crawl onwards and dryly remarked, That cheeky bloke struck me more as a highwayman than a debt collector. Well, where should we start looking for the 86-year-old girl? The doctor asked himself more than anyone else. It'll be like looking for a needle in a haystack. It would be prudent to first inquire with the town's mayor, remarked Holmes. Spider, do you know where we might find the mayor? Indeed, she replied politely. All the necessary data was programmed into me as a precaution. Very well then, go ahead and make an appointment with him, Holmes instructed the smart pack animal. So we don't waste any time waiting. The city appeared quite bustling. Both ground-based wheeled vehicles and flying discs whizzed through the streets alongside skyscrapers of varying heights. Illuminated reddish by the brown dwarf, the scenery looked more nightmarish than busy. Finally, the Spider stopped in front of a somewhat lower building, on whose facade an eagle with spread wings was visible, which presumably had to be the city's heraldic animal. Below it stood in capital letters, Gliese County Mayor. Though I don't know what time it is at the moment, but judging by the brightly lit windows, it appears the mayor is in office and at his post, Dr. Watson remarked as he stepped out first. Well then, let's have a word with him together, Holmes announced. I just hope he employs a more refined manner of speech than our brief companion. The mayor received them behind his desk in a large office, from whose ceiling hung an illuminated model of the planetary system. A nameplate on the desk identified him as Mayor Matt Melk, and he appeared cooperative. Ah, Hobbs and Wasp, or something like that. Some nutter from the Galactic Union already notified me of your arrival, regarding some sort of search, he informed them, and pulled some coins from a drawer. Here's your welcome money. Who exactly are you trying to find in our urban labyrinth? Miss Nebulia, the President's daughter, of course, Holmes replied with bewilderment, whilst letting the coins slip into his jacket pocket. Haven't you been given an ultimatum by Mr. Cadmushnezar? Shaking his head, Mayor Melk, wearing a well-fitted dark suit, leaned back in his comfortable swivel chair. Nobody gives me an ultimatum. I only heard from the Galactic Union that someone would soon appear here to investigate a temporary agenda. There seems to be a communication problem here, Holmes summarised. We were told there was a station here, yet it's a major city. We were also told that if we don't track down the missing person quickly, the station, or rather, the city, will be destroyed. Destroyed? Now Mayor Melk became alert and rocked forward in his chair. This must indeed be a communication problem. We are a rough but very peaceful lot, and whilst it's true that a city has developed from what was once a small station, surely we can't be threatened with destruction just because someone or other has gone missing. I don't mean to criticise, Dr. Watson began his reprimand. But you seem to be taking this matter rather lightly, Mayor. We met a certain Mr. Bloodsweat who claimed your people had already been infiltrated by the three-eyed ones, which is why they had previously ensured that concealing headbands came into fashion. Fake news! Melk made vigorous waving motions with both hands in protest. What actually happened was that I suggested bringing headbands to market and promoting them with tax money, because my brother-in-law owns a textile factory and desperately needed an order. Holmes wrinkled his nose in contempt. Be that as it may, we would like to examine your residence register immediately. Perhaps Miss Nebulia has properly— What's that then? Melk interrupted him, scratching the back of his head where his hair grew wild and unkempt. We don't have a residence register here, only a criminal record. If this is about a kidnapping, I can show you some previous offenders who specialise in that and similar offences. Dr. Watson sighed. Unfortunately, we don't know whether the relatively young lady was kidnapped or simply took a break from her strict father. Regardless, Melk pressed a button on his desk, whereupon a screen rose up displaying rapidly changing mugshots of unsavoury characters. All the men in this rogues gallery seemed to share a cunning look and a pinched mouth. Finally, the slideshow came to an abrupt halt on a photo of a handsome young chap, whose blonde hair was slicked back from his face with gel. His blue eyes appeared trustworthy, his slightly parted lips revealing a row of bleached teeth and a winning smile. Blimey, Holmes let slip. The lad doesn't fit at all with the line of tough blokes before him. That's Eladin, the pretty boy with the slicked back hair, Melk introduced him. Never worked a day in his life, always finds willing ladies who generously support him. Most recently, he only served 2 years for marriage fraud against a millionaire widow because the female judge fancied him. You should look into this dandy. According to our records, he usually frequents a dubious dive with the promising name The Way Up. Here's the address, 33 East End Street. I wish you success, but you must leave me now. Urgent official business awaits me, including, would you believe, a complaint about loud noises at the East Cemetery. Back in the Spider, both reflected on their encounter with the dignitary while making their way to the given address, with Dr. Watson not having a good word to say about the mayor. Did you notice it too, Holmes? This senior official was completely clueless and clearly made himself guilty of nepotism with the subsidy to his brother-in-law, the manufacturer. I would have been very surprised, Holmes revealed to him, if this wasn't happening here, especially since the same sort of people are involved, even far from home. As the saying goes, politics is the paradise of smooth-tongued prattlers. At 32nd Street, their 8-legged transport could proceed no further, as the high-rise buildings stood far too close together. Therefore, the gentlemen alighted and continued on foot. A sinister trio dressed in black clothing suddenly positioned themselves before them, standing with legs apart and pulling faces. One wore a hood, another a cowl, and the third a headband in crimson with orange spots. "You must pay us tribute! Hand over all your valuables, you wretched rabble!" demanded the latter in a crude tone. With an elegant wave of his hand, Holmes opened his suit jacket, pressed his belt buckle, and immediately a cloud smelling of rotten eggs enveloped the 3 robbers. "Ah!" exclaimed the one wearing the hood. "What's that awful stench? Have you got a dead cat under your shirt?" His mate with the headband had to vomit due to this olfactory assault, and ultimately all 3 of them beat a hasty retreat. Dr. Watson held his nose and noted in a congested voice, "An effective weapon, though rather revolting for us as well." "As long as it works," Holmes gloated mischievously. "As soon as we're transported back to our own time, I'll file a patent for it." At the end of the street, a neon sign was flashing, its blood-red letters alternately forming the words "The Stronghold" above and "Private Booths" below. "Well, I do hope that's not a brothel," Holmes speculated. It would be dreadful to find Nebulia in such a disreputable establishment. "Sometimes I wonder how many men require such services," Dr. Watson pondered, "because they cannot find a lady to love them for free. One would think that should be possible in a large city." As they entered, soft music drifted towards them, and in the dimly lit, well-frequented room, they didn't particularly stand out, as all those present seemed to be engaged in lively conversation. Fragments of trivial conversations reached their ears, and Holmes's keen eyes spotted a table in the farthest corner where only one man sat, the man they were looking for, with his glossy, slicked-back hair. The detective made his way purposefully towards him, followed by the doctor, who felt rather uncomfortable in such an establishment. "I see these seats are free. May we invite you to join us for a whisky?" Holmes asked the handsome fellow as he sat down opposite him. "Why do I need booze? My life offers me enough euphoria." As he spoke, he played with a small package, measuring only 3 centimetres in diameter. He made it bounce from one hand to the other. "Does that mean you never drink spirits?" Holmes raised an eyebrow incredulously. "Not since my liver packed in." He quickly made the small package disappear into his trouser pocket and smoothed down his pinstripe suit. "By the looks of you, especially the chap with the moustache, you're not from around here, hmm?" "And the way you look," came Dr. Watson's retort as he sat down next to Holmes. "You're exactly the type that an innocent country girl would fall for." Eladin straightened his spine to appear taller in his seat. "Are you relatives of Legony?" "Is that what she's calling herself now?" Holmes countered. Eladin's attention was diverted when a young lady with blonde curls, wearing a tight red dress and a red headband, tottered over to the table. "Hi, darling," she breathed, giving him a kiss on the cheek. "I've landed the job at the Fight Dome. Tonight I'll be the ring girl for the Musali versus Dobrahim match." "Congratulations," said Eladin, standing up and gently guiding her ahead of him as he left. "Come downstairs with me. I've got a present for you." Dr. Watson snapped disapprovingly. "What a lout! He neither introduced us nor bid us farewell." Holmes nodded thoughtfully. "I bet he's about to propose to her downstairs, presumably with a ring from the millionaires with—" Before he could continue, a dark-haired waitress in a saucy serving dress tiptoed to the table. "What can I get for your parched throats?" "We'll have 2 whiskies," ordered Holmes. "And we'd also like to know if a charming short-haired young lady with a headband frequents this establishment, one who doesn't quite seem to belong here." "That's hard for me to say," she trilled with a shrug, "especially since I only pay close attention to the male guests." No sooner had she disappeared Then a shady character sat down with them, briefly stuck out his tongue, and kept winking with his left eyelid. "Do you have a medical condition, my poor friend?" Dr. Watson inquired kindly. "Don't talk rubbish," the man snapped, evidently too nervous to keep all his nerves in check. His clothes appeared quite worn and faded, in a shade of grey that matched his skin. "I'm the clever Becklebig, and I can certainly help you. So you're looking for a girl with short hair?" "Not for the purpose that you have in mind," Holmes clarified. "I've already figured that out, mate," Becklebig hissed. "Hardly any woman wears short hair, which is why the little one caught my attention." "Where did you see her?" asked the doctor. "Not far from here, as a matter of fact." The waitress brought 2 glasses of whiskey, for which Holmes gave her a coin. After she had gone, Becklebig eagerly gulped down the contents of one of them. "Ah, that was God!" he proclaimed, already eyeing the other glass with eager, twitching glances. "So where?" Holmes urged him to finally reveal the location. "In Weston Park. You can always strike up conversations with nice people walking their dogs there. The little one seemed to love animals." After sharing this information, he gulped down the contents of the second glass. "Ah, I'd be happy to take you there. Have you got a flying disc?" "Better a talking spider," Dr. Watson corrected him. "And you shouldn't drink so much, or your liver will suffer." "My liver's already so hardened, this rock gut couldn't possibly soften it now," he remarked, and followed them outside. In the Spider, Becklebig shared several anecdotes from his 69 years of life thus far. He didn't ask any questions, but only made a demand for payment should the short-haired girl be found thanks to his help. In the park, within a vast expanse of lawn, several trees stretched their branches towards the sun, covered in lush green leaves. Among them, many visitors frolicked with 6-legged dogs whose black fur gleamed as if freshly groomed. "What breed of dog is that?" the doctor wanted to know. "Those are racing dogs," Becklebig explained. "Perfect for the fast-paced metropolis. Over there, that stout chap in the white bespoke suit. You should ask him about the short-haired lass. Last I saw her, she was talking to him." The gentleman didn't need to be told twice as they made their way towards the stout fellow whose face had rather feline features. "I beg your pardon, we're looking for a young lady and happened to learn that you had spoken with her," Holmes blurted out without preamble. "Yes, that's possible, as I'm always looking for interesting faces as a television producer," he explained. "My name is Linus Looker, and just today I need someone for my program Missing. In it, worried fathers, mothers, and so forth search for lost relatives." "That's wonderful, as we happen to be the uncles of the missing person," Dr. Watson lied quick-wittedly. "What a fortunate coincidence!" Looker rejoiced and whistled for his dog. "Come, Rufus, we found a replacement for the cancelled candidate." Together, they walked to the Spider, where Becklebig was already waiting. After they had introduced themselves to each other, they set off for the TV station, which was housed in the tallest skyscraper. There was hectic activity there, with several employees in colourful garments rushing about, and everyone seemed to be engrossed in their tasks. Linus Looker led his 3 guests into a room with many monitors displaying various programmes. "Here you can see everything that's being produced," explained the well-fed producer. "From space operas to horror films, I've got it all covered. You have exactly 3 minutes of airtime to make a dramatic appeal, show a photo of your niece, and then you may wait for an hour afterwards for any response." "Oh," said Holmes, "we haven't brought a photograph with us." "But someone saw me talking to her," Looker interjected. "Yes, that was me," Becklebig chimed in. "Is there anything to drink here?" "I'll have something served," promised Linus Looker, and pointed to one of the monitors. "Here you can see all the women I fancied whilst chatting with them, as I took photos of those ones. Simply command play and shout print when you spot the right image." "Oh, that's easy," Holmes said cheerfully. "Play film." The monitor displayed a woman's portrait every second. They all shared symmetrical facial features and an amiable expression. "Your performance is in." Looker glanced briefly at a clock on the wall. "Exactly 27 minutes. Good luck." Then he hurried out of the room with his dog. After several photos of pretty faces, Nebulia's friendly smiling physiognomy appeared on the screen, wearing an olive-green headband, and Holmes commanded print, whereupon the monitor produced a printout. Not a moment too soon. "Your entrance, please," a female voice demanded harshly over the loudspeaker. Holmes and Dr. Watson stepped out of the room and were immediately caught in the sights of a camera. Next to it stood Looker, making the announcement, "Dear television viewers, here you see two concerned uncles searching for their niece. The tall one with the crooked nose is Uncle Sherlock, and the short one with the facial hair is Uncle John." At Looker's hand signal, Holmes began to make an urgent appeal. "To all those who want to help us, we are looking for our dear Nebulia. This is what she looks like. Has anyone seen her or knows where she might be?" While speaking, he held the printout clearly visible to the camera lens. Dr. Watson also contributed a few words. "We very much hope that nothing has happened to her, as she is still rather inexperienced at her, young age, and came to this big city with great expectations. Whoever recognises her should contact us." Looker took over again. "The telephone number is displayed on screen, and the two uncles await your calls. And now, back to our advertising break, featuring those funny dogs who've even learned how to meow." After this brief intermezzo in front of the camera, Holmes and the doctor waited impatiently for the first call in the telephone exchange. Beckelbig sat between them, drinking a glass of whiskey that the broadcasting station had provided. After just 5 minutes, someone called in, albeit with rather dire news. "Hello, this is Morris from the City Funeral Service. I regret to inform you, Uncle Sherlock and Uncle John, that your niece was buried yesterday." "Good Lord!" exclaimed Dr. Watson. "Now the city is doomed." "If you wish to lay fresh flowers on your niece's grave," Morris continued impassively, "then come to the East Cemetery, grave 2923, final regards. Perhaps he'll spare the city if we investigate the circumstances of her death. I strongly suspect she didn't die of natural causes," Holmes conjectured as he rose from his armchair. "No, and yet I believe the three-eyed one will mercilessly destroy the city," Dr. Watson feared, clasping his hands above his head. "Which three-eyed one?" asked Beckelbig, already quite drunk. "I suspect you're suffering from delirium, old chaps." Without Beckelbig, who had found the broadcasting station to be an ideal place for free drinks, they hastily made their way back to the mayor to question him about the file concerning Nebulia's death. Milk was just about to leave his office when Sherlock Holmes delivered the grave news. "I fear the worst for the future of your city, Mayor. Could you look into what led to Eastern Cemetery Plot 2973 becoming Nebulia's final resting place? I fail to see what this unfortunate incident has to do with the future of my city, but very well," he conceded, tapping on his desk as the screen powered up and displayed the cemetery. "Everything's written right here on the gravestone. Here lies Nebulia, who was struck dead by a falling branch in the park. Life in the city is truly harsh indeed." "Dreadful. What will the President say about this?" lamented Dr. Watson. "How I wish I could have helped her. Who knows, she might still be alive if I had been there to provide first aid." "That reminds me of something," pondered Holmes, running a hand across his forehead. "You mentioned loud noises at the East Cemetery, Mayor. What actions have you taken regarding this matter?" "Of course, I immediately had a sign put up with the order, 'No noise allowed,' because I'm a man of action," he boasted. "Why do you ask?" "Because our hitchhiker, a certain Mr. Blodsweat, claimed that the three-eyed ones were immortal," replied the detective, "and Nebulia, like her father, has 3 eyes." "What? Such things really exist?" Milk seemed to be lost for words. "And are you suggesting she was buried alive? Well, she'd certainly be dead by now, regardless of having 3 eyes or not." "If she's immortal, then no. Quickly, Holmes," urged the doctor, already rushing ahead. "Let's not waste any time." Bewildered, the mayor watched them leave and muttered, These galactic nutters are going to turn my town completely upside down. Spider, to the East Cemetery, ordered Holmes, his face flushed with excitement. The President will start an Armageddon if we can't save his daughter. The traffic in Gliese County adjusted to the falling dusk and crept along the streets in the form of ground-based vehicles. But the eight-legged mode of transport of the two heroes from Old England nimbly climbed over them, amidst protests from several agitated drivers of elevated vehicles, all the way to their destination, the East Cemetery. Holmes's relentless silence finally ended at grave 2973. Spider, can you dig a pit as well? Of course, it replied, and immediately began working with its front legs. Soil sprayed in all directions, and it quickly dug deeper until there was a loud clunk. Indeed, an exceedingly useful mode of transport, Dr. Watson observed, looking down into the pit at a zinc coffin. As soon as the Spider had lifted the lid, Nebulia sprang from the coffin wearing an olive-green jumpsuit that matched the colour of her headband, and let out a sort of inarticulate howl of rage. "Rah! The lady lives!" Dr. Watson called out delightedly. Even the master detective seemed to have a massive weight lifted from his heart. "Welcome back among the living, Lady Nebulia. At last someone's freed me. I was starting to get rather bored in there," complained the agile president's daughter. A scent of fine sandalwood emanated from her slender frame. "What a relief that you endured your captivity so well, my dear. Now, let us swiftly travel to your father, who commissioned Sherlock Holmes and myself," Dr. Watson urged. "That won't do. First, I must settle my score with Dino and then find my ring that was stolen. It was made with a diamond from the Mountain of Wisdom." Angrily, she showed the gentleman her right hand, where no ring adorned her finger anymore. "Dino struck me down from behind with a club because I resisted him." "What is this Dino's full name?" Holmes inquired. "No idea, though he looked quite attractive for a human being. Could it be a fair-haired young chap who combs his hair back in what they call a slicked-back parting?" formulated Sherlock Holmes, raising his eyebrows. "Yes, that's exactly what he looked like. Have you met him already?" Joyful excitement spread across her features. "We had the dubious pleasure," Dr. Watson admitted. "Now we must return to that dreadful pub." "No, I hardly think so," Holmes objected. "Do you remember the parcel which I thought contained the millionaire widow's ring?" "Ah," Dr. Watson suddenly recalled. "You think Lady Nebulia's ring was inside. In that case, it would now be on Legony's finger." "Quite right," Holmes praised. "And thus it would now likely be found in the fighting arena. Come along, dear lady, we shall attend a fight and pay special attention to the ring girl." Sometimes chance really did play a leading role in a criminal case, and sometimes the detective and surviving victim arrived at their destination just in time. The Fight Dome advertised the fight of the century in neon lights. Manila Musali versus Deneb Dobrahim glowed visible from afar. The gentleman moved towards the entrance with the rescued lady between them, where Holmes had to pay a few coins and received a ticket for one of the front rows. "It appears to be a boxing match," Dr. Watson surmised. "This will be exciting, especially for one of the spectators," Nebulia smirked. "There, diagonally in front of us, in the second row, sits Dino, and he hasn't the faintest idea who's about to bore a hole in his skull from behind." She pushed her headband higher, revealing her third eye. She stared fixedly in that direction with it. "Lady Nebulia," Holmes whispered to her, "please, no vigilante justice." "This is my planet," she insisted, continuing to stare. Two massive bodybuilders stepped into the ring, which was enclosed by golden ropes. One wore blue trousers and was announced by the ring announcer as mass murderer Musali, whilst the other, in red trousers, was introduced as detonator Dobrahim. The sizable crowd was already howling in bloodthirsty anticipation. Vulgar words flew from the masses towards each opponent from the fans of the other. A gong sounded, and the two muscle men began wildly pummeling each other. There was no sign of either a referee or any discernible rules. In the second row, a blond man slumped to the ground, but none of the spectators, all caught up in the collective frenzy of a mass event, noticed his death. "That score is settled," Nebulia declared contentedly, pushing her headband back over her third eye. "Good Lord!" exclaimed the doctor, covering his eyes with both hands. "Well, at least he was no angel," Holmes put into perspective. "He nearly caused the destruction of the entire city." "And now I want my ring back," she threatened. "Please don't kill the blonde girl," the doctor implored. "She hasn't the faintest idea where the trinket came from." A gong sounded, and the muscle men retreated to their respective corners. This gave the ring girl Legini, wearing a red bikini and holding a sign, the opportunity to safely enter the boxing ring and do her round. "Yes, that's my ring," confirmed Nebulia, who had noticed the glinting on one of Legini's hands and stood up. "Please let the girl live," Dr. Watson called after her, but his shout was drowned out by the clamour of the audience. Unimpressed, she moved towards the ring, closely followed by Holmes, who was trying to prevent the worst. After Legini had left the ring, the gong sounded again and the fight continued. Holmes quickly overtook Nebulia and approached the blonde beauty. "Hello, Miss Legini. You probably don't remember me," he addressed her. "Yes, you're one of the men from Eladin's table." She recognised him. "That's right. You see, he sent me because he mixed up the ring he gave you. Here is the jeweller who made it." The cunning detective gestured towards Nebulia. "Unfortunately, it's only the second most expensive ring, but you naturally deserve the most expensive one, Miss Legini." Nebulia was already reaching out for it. "Oh, I see," said Legini disappointedly as she pulled the valuable piece of jewellery from her finger. "And when will I receive the most expensive ring?" "As quickly as possible," Holmes promised her. The noise distracted Legini, and she turned her full attention to the ring, where human powerhouses were grinding against each other with brute force. With a crooked smile, Nebulia slipped her ring onto her finger and purred to Holmes. "You've saved your life." "Well, unfortunately, I cannot keep my promise. Or do you happen to have a spare ring up your sleeve, Lady Nebulia?" Wordlessly, she bent down to pick up a drinks can lying on the ground, which she swiftly shaped into a ring with tremendous force. "Here's the ring for the blonde." "Oh, it looks rather, interesting, but not particularly valuable," he remarked. "If you make it sound appealing to her, she'll surely believe it," she encouraged him. With the ring in his hand, and a few doubts at the back of his mind, Holmes returned to Legini, who looked at him in surprise. "Already finished?" she asked, perplexed. "Custom-made and express delivery," he improvised. "This ring is a genuine one-of-a-kind. There isn't another one like it in existence." "Wow, brilliant," she said delightedly as she put it on. "Yes, it really does look more extraordinary and valuable than the other one." A gong sounded, and she got ready to step back into the ring to announce the next round with her board. The fight lasted only 5 rounds, from which mass murderer Musali emerged as the radiant victor. Detonator Dobrahim had to be carried out of the ring by 4 men. Still, none of those present had noticed the death of the beautiful Eladin. Nebulia lost interest in staying any longer at the fight dome and strode purposefully towards the exit. "Can we finally travel to your father now?" Dr. Watson inquired cautiously. "No, I want to stay here. I simply like it here." Her sandalwood perfume seemed to have grown even stronger. That gave the master detective an idea. He opened his suit jacket and once again activated his belt buckle, whereupon a stench of rotten eggs filled the air. "Ugh, what's that awful smell?" croaked Nebulia, who had already pinched her nose while speaking. "Oh, that's what they call street perfume," Holmes lied with a charming smirk. "By initiative of Mayor Mulk, a man of action, it's now filling the entire city. I'm not quite sure why, but I'm certain there must be a reason." "Phew," she said, fanning her face with her ring-adorned hand. "I've changed my mind. Take me back home. The Mountain of Wisdom smells far more pleasant." "That's sensible," Dr. Watson agreed. "And I'm sure your dear papa will slip another diamond ring onto one of your free fingers." "I actually wanted to find something like great adventure and love here," she confessed, as she got into the Spider. Sherlock Holmes condescended to make a philosophical remark. In our culture, there was a religious founder called Buddha who shared this wisdom. In the end, only three things matter: how much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of things not meant for you. And believe me, Lady Nebulia, far more significant adventures await you. Indeed, you still have 5,900 amusing years ahead of you, Dr. Watson chimed in. And every minute of it is like a suitcase full of diamonds for you. Holmes dug deep into his box of compliments, which coaxed a slight smile from the lady. You are listening to Pomej, The Missing President's Daughter. Sherlock Holmes, The Galactic Cases, Episode 9. Based on the characters created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. A Go Audio production.